So this box is mostly full, and there's another half box in there. I know roughly the book will be divided in 3 parts, so as I think sometimes I've written like this one, this is part 1, so that's gonna be part 1, since it's part 3. So like there's a chapter in discipline that was about time, but it started as a punctuality chapter. And I actually made the decision yesterday as I was doing the last minute edits. I'll show you. This is the respect time chapter. And I actually cut this whole story about Harry Truman, and I'm gonna move it into this book. So we'll do this. This will be the first section. Take one of these, put punctuality. I already have part of the chapter written. Done. So I want to do a chapter on, you know, that quote, sometimes all it takes for evil to prevail is good men to do nothing. And as I was thinking about this, I have this quote about Zinn, from Howard Zinn. Then I thought of the JFK quote. Then I realized I could open that with the story of his father, who was actually the ambassador to England as the Second World War was breaking out. And then I just saw a card in here, a quote about Marcus Aurelius that one of his biographers wrote. Let me see. This is a quote from Henry Sedgwick. The charge against Marcus Aurelius is that he suffered the criminal law to take its course. Marcus Aurelius doesn't stand up as Rome is persecuting the Christians. So, like, seriously, this is already the core of a chapter. You just saw it happen. If that's all I do today, it's a successful day. That's one of the things you realize with a book. You just need to make 1 or 2 positive contributions a day, and it adds up. I did Rogan yesterday, and now back at this. I only had a short amount of time on these, so I'm gonna hope to spend some more time today. So I'm officially through all the cards that were in this box. I have some clear chapters. I have some big stacks for part 1, part 2, part 3. I've got some other loose cards to track down, but this is the gist of it. I've now gone through it, and now I have to start making some decisions. I'm going through, this is the Temperance book here, and there's some little chapters that I think I'm gonna end up taking. So I'm gonna use this chapter on the mob mentality. This is the punctuality chapter, which I'm moving. This is the clemency chapter, I'm moving that one. Finished this book yesterday. You can see quite a number of notes that I have to take. So this will get broken down and soon enough be made into note cards along with all these other ones. It struck me that Truman might work as part 1 of the book. And as I'm going through the notes, note card about Truman, really good note card about Truman, note card about Truman, note card about Truman, note card about Truman, note card about Truman. I didn't know that I'd taken this many notes on Truman, because the book I would probably use as the basis for this I read maybe 18 months ago. It's one of the wonderful parts about doing this stuff is you are surprised even by your own notes. Clearly I recognized something that was usable, but I didn't know that I would need it. That's the mystery of researching for a book, is like, how do you know that you found what you're looking for if you didn't actually know what you were looking for? Or earlier you weren't even looking for anything, and yet somehow it all comes together. And so I'm starting to feel good. I have at least the core of part 1 of the book, which is really exciting. Yeah, so I'm sort of in this weird phase in the book where I'm kind of just thinking about, so when people think of justice, they think of the legal system. When people think of justice, they think of social justice warriors. But I think for the Stoics, justice was the ethical code by which a person lived, and then also what we owe each other. Marcus Aurelius talks in Meditations like 40 or 50 times about the idea of the common good, that we're all sort of part of this organism, and that how we treat other people is the most important thing. One of the other early Stoics, Heracles, talks about are sort of circles of concern, that obviously you have to be concerned with your own self-interest, but then, you know, what do you owe your family? What do you owe your country? What do you owe the world? And I think actually the Stoic art of justice is about pulling these outer rings closer internally. Yes, a Stoic thinks primarily about what's in our control, but we also have a lot of control, or we have the ability to influence and change the status quo. One would be mistaken if they thought of Stoicism solely as an individualistic thing. All the Stoics were involved in politics and public life. They served in the army. They tried to be a force for good in the world, even within the the limited purview of like trying to focus on what you control. Yeah, I heard this quote from Angela Merkel once where she said, if everyone sweeps their side of the street, soon enough the whole village is clean. So I do think in Stoicism there is this idea that you focus on what's up to you, what's in your purview. You don't go around being like, why are these people acting this way? Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, the people at the UN, those fools in Washington, the EU in Brussels, like, why aren't they doing this, that, or the other? And meanwhile, like, there are so many opportunities for courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom at home where you do have control. You talk about wanting some politician to sacrifice their career, for some matter of principle, and meanwhile, like, you're afraid to stand up to your boss, or meanwhile, the industry you're in has a largely negative impact on the world, but you're like, that's just how it works, right? So I do think in Stoicism, while they wouldn't give up on the idea of collective action, they would just argue that there's a lot of stuff and a lot of ways you can make a difference at home that we just tend to neglect because it's almost easier to focus on the big stuff because then you don't actually have to do anything. But the truth is, like, all politics are local and all change should start at home. I was thinking about this the other day, like, whenever I'm driving a rental car, like I'm driving one right now, like, I'm so much more relaxed than I am in my own car. Like, I'm not thinking about what kind of gas mileage is it getting. I'm not thinking about, is it clean? I'm just like present because it's not my car. It's not my stuff. And I'm usually in a place that I'm not familiar with. So I'm just like way more present than I am at home. Because at home you have stuff to worry about. When you're traveling, you're in the middle of doing a thing. Which is why I think the Stoics and the Buddhists and so many different philosophical and religious traditions, they talk about the importance of presence, but they also talk about, reminding yourself that none of the stuff that you own, none of the stuff that you're dealing with is yours. Like, it's all a loner. It's all a temporary, ephemeral thing, which is why you should just be present while you have it, not take any of it too seriously, and just sort of exist in the moment with the stuff. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't look, Marcus Aurelius isn't always clear about what he means because he's not writing to you or I. He's writing to himself. He's working out these ideas almost like in shorthand. We have to understand that the Stoic practice is kind of a dialogue with the self. And so I think Marcus is saying, like, look, ideally, if we think about the virtues of justice, if we think about courage and self-control and wisdom, the idea is the world is complicated, the idea is that people are complicated, the idea is that you should be patient and tolerant and accepting and in control of yourself and look for the good in things. And so when you find yourself giving into fear or anger or distrust or despair, you're running away from who you're supposed to be. I think Marcus is probably thinking about all the annoying people that he deals with in his job and the people who make him challenge his ideas of who he is and how he wants to be in the world. How a philosopher's supposed to sort of make their way through the world. And he's reminding himself that he's kind of drifting away from that or running away from that, and he has to get back to that, sort of ideal, that place of justice and fairness and acceptance and tolerance and patience. And I think that's the dialogue he's having with himself, not just there in meditations, but like throughout meditations and throughout his life. I'm here on a Saturday in June working on the book, and it's weird to be thinking about justice, after this horrific school shooting in Uvalde, now the reversal of Roe v. Wade, and just a series of sort of mind-numbing and mind-boggling either laws or things we're struggling with as a society. There's a quote in one of the cards, I forget who it was, but basically that the purpose of politics is to bring justice into being in an imperfect world. I'm baffled by how hard this is for people. There's a Huffington Post article from many years ago that I love, and it said, I don't know how to tell you that you have to care about other people. But that seems to be where we are as a society. We struggle with the idea that we owe anything to other people. The decisions or laws we pass have implications or impact on other people. I think about this as far as Roe v. Wade. goes. Obviously, abortion is a complicated issue. But you know what's really complicated? Forcing a woman to give birth to a child. I mean, I was there for the birth of my 2 kids. This is not some humdrum minor thing. This is insane. People die doing it all the time. And when we think about justice too, of course, we've inherited so many of our notions of what justice is from religion. And yet the system here in America is primarily rooted in a separation of church and state. And I'm just, as I sit here doing these cards, I just struggle with how I'm going to make this concept applicable to people on both sides of the aisle, appeal to the real angels of our nature, the higher sense of justice, what we owe each other, what our obligations to each other are, to the less fortunate, to children, what we owe the future. I don't know, it's going to be tough. It is what it is. Like, all I can do is keep writing. So I was walking through the record store the other day and I noticed he has a bunch of Metallica albums, which I love, but he had a rare edition of And Justice for All, which is actually not like one of my favorite Metallica albums. Of course, One is one of their best songs, but other than that, like, isn't my favorite album. But I was kind of thinking And Justice for All might be a good title for the Justice book. So I asked Lippy if I could have it, and he said I could. He gave it to me as a gift, which was very sweet of him. But it's going to be a totem on the wall. He gave me this frame also, and I'm gonna hang it up in my office so I can look at it. I like to have, like when I'm working on a book, I like to have like a quote or a saying or an idea that's kind of like inspiring me as I'm writing. And I think this will be a fun one to look at throughout the course of the book. Obviously I'll listen to the album while I'm doing it too, but put it in. Anyways, I'm gonna hang this up on the wall in the office, and it'll be a nice reminder. And now it becomes a little bit a part of the story of writing this book. It is July 5th, and I am going to start writing today. I have my Truman books, I have my Truman note cards. I was going for a bike ride last night, and the first sentences of part 1 sort of came to me. I've got them here, and I'm going to start writing. So it's funny, I wrote that Do Your Best chapter for Courage originally, and then the Jimmy Carter one?
Yeah.
And then I moved it to this book. Now that I'm thinking about how I want to structure part 1 of the Justice book, about a sort of personal code of conduct and ethics or whatever, I'm wondering if that actually fits better there.
Maybe it does work better in Justice because it gives you an opportunity to be, one of those few opportunities to be sort of like a little bit rah-rah.
Sure.
I guess it's it's like you matter, your contribution matters, what you do in this world matters, not just to you and your community, to the world, and you are robbing the world of what you can contribute by not doing your best every day.
Yeah, I mean, it basically, the whole chapter comes down to the, like, did you always do your best? No, and then it says, why not? That's the thrust of that story. The whole book is about that, but that's not really about self-control. It's more of a principled thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to move into Justice for all that it allows you to do in speaking to the reader.
It just feels like that would fit really well in part 1 of Justice, which is like, you have this code of values or principles. One is that you always do your best. You don't care about the results, but you do your best because you give all of what you have to whatever it is that you do. So basically I'm saying there's like sort of multiple kinds of justice, right? Part 1 is personal justice. Regulus keeping his word. He said he would come back. He came back even under penalty of death, right? So like the first part of the book's all going to be sort of examples of kind of that, like personal honor, personal ethics. And the main character, the main example of that is I'm doing Harry Truman. Which, by the way, remember you found that stuff for me about Truman and Marcus Aurelius a while ago?
Like his reading of meditations and whatnot?
Yeah, you found that in that old book. It was like an oral history of Truman.
Yes.
You have to read that book. It's fucking incredible.
Okay.
It's by Merle Miller, and it's called Plain Speaking. But anyway, so Truman is sort of the example of like personal rectitude and responsibility and ethics and all of that, right? The next part of the book is going to be about communal, so like the sort of the common good. And I think I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is instead of telling one singular story, like picking one person that embodies that, I think I was going to tell the story. I was going to start with the abolitionist movement and then the women's rights movement, right? Like it's gonna sort of tell like a bunch of different stories, if that makes sense. Like kind of do like this passing of torches rather than one singular person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Obviously the Women's Hour is a book I'm gonna use, and then I'm gonna use this book called Bury the Chains, which is about the abolitionist movement. But I was wondering if there might be like one or two other books that I could read that would help with that, if that makes sense. So I was just wondering if you could find me some good recommendations to read. Chipping away at the book today. It's sort of this mix of like writing / note cards, and you're just kind of pinging back and forth. It is becoming painfully clear to me as the pandemic wanes just how blessed I was to write Courage is Calling in this bubble of no travel, no meetings, no in-person stuff. The struggle on this book is going to be finding the time. Ultimately, books are about large blocks of uninterrupted time. And that's the rarest thing in the world. Not just because of my job, but because I have 2 young kids and I have a business, that I have a life, and there's only so many hours in the day. What I want to be doing is this, and I have to carve out that time. And if I don't, I won't do the subject justice, I won't do the audience justice, and I'll be robbing myself of the thing I care most about. So I was on a bike ride yesterday, and I think I got the 3 parts of the book nailed down. First would be the principle, like you as the principle, the personal. We have to reform ourselves before we can bring justice into the world. The second would be the communal. This is when we start to care about other people. Then the third would be the cosmic, the heroic kind of justice that you might see in a Gandhi, or the kinds of figures that I talked about in part 3 of the Courage book. So this is big. I mean, I vaguely knew what I wanted, but now I have names for them, which is a big breakthrough. And now I just got to get writing. I'm wrapping up the intro, which is good, and then trying to do a lot of reading. So I'm technically on vacation, but I'm not on vacation from the book. I'm on vacation from doing the stuff that I don't want to be doing. The book being what I actually want to be doing. And so obviously work, family balance, but I'm trying to spend about a good hour a day on the book, which an uninterrupted, focused hour can make a huge difference. And so I think I've polished up the intro now, and then I'm gonna go back to part 1 when I finish this up. So I wanted to do a chapter in the book about responsibility, which to me is related to justice, the idea of like taking ownership of life, of your own actions, of your own decisions. And this is kind of how my process works. It's kind of cool. I wrote this note card to myself. I must have read this book. It's A. Scott Berg wrote a book about Maxwell Perkins, the editor of Fitzgerald. I mean, this is before I even started using these note cards. So this note card is probably 7 years old, 8 years old, and it's about this story about how, as a young man, Maxwell Perkins watches a friend nearly drown. And he takes from this idea that he says, the lesson I learned from this is to never refuse a responsibility. And I don't have the book on me because I'm here on vacation, but I wrote page 28, Maxwell Perkins' book, and I pull it up, and this is just the fucking most perfect story that I could have possibly found. Like, this is the story that I want to tell in the book. And you write these notes to yourself. Some of them turn out to be nothing, and some of them turn out to be exactly what you needed, even though you could not have possibly conceived of needing it when you wrote it. And that's just the part of the process that I love so much. My forward momentum is the most important thing. I have a lot of forward momentum right now. So I'm gonna mark these to come back to later in sort of a pseudo editing, refining, polishing phase. But for now, I wanna keep the momentum going, which is writing new stuff, generative stuff. So I think momentum's the most important thing, right? If you get bogged down in the weeds, if you edit while you write, someone once told me, you get stuck up. There's even a thing in the Bible, he says, don't look behind you as you plow, because the horse will veer in going forward. That's how I think about it. I don't want to be too concerned with what I have to do behind me, how it's been going behind me. I want to think about where I'm going next. So I've been away quite a bit as I've been on vacation, and then I travel, and then I did a speaking gig. So I've been away. I'm getting caught up on the calendar, the Daily Stoic calendar, which I have. And it's just a reminder, like the days, they fly by. They fly by when you're working, right? You lose track of time, which is a wonderful experience when you're working on a book. But also, to me, it's a reminder, the Stoics talk about memento mori. It's a reminder that you can lose precious days, weeks, months, go by like that if you're not careful, if you're not showing up every day, if you're not doing the work. You look up and a year's gone by and you're not really any closer to finishing. That's what happens if you're not present, if you're not disciplined, if you're not organized, if you don't have a system, if you structure, if you're not dedicated. That's what happens. It's a reminder to me as this time goes by, that's time I'll never get back. So what do I have to show for it? I have the wonderful experiences with my family, I have some relaxation, but I also got pages. I made positive contributions on the project. I moved the ball forward. I developed some momentum, and that's the most important thing on any big project like a book. So I've really been struggling with the title for the new book. When I started the project, I was thinking "And Justice for All," but what I really don't like about that is it's not telling you what to do. And more importantly, it perpetuates something that I try to address in the intro of the book, is this draft of the intro of the book, which is that when we think justice, we think the legal system, we think how government treats people, we think of this large expanse of things. We don't necessarily think about what we do, how we act as human beings and our sort of everyday actions and decisions. When I think of virtue for the Stoics, or the virtue of justice, I think they meant more like do the right thing. That's something Marcus Aurelius says. He says, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. And I was just writing this note card to myself. I wrote right thing right now. And I don't know, there's a part of me that I think that might be the title. Like, that's tattoo worthy, that's a command, it's got an alliteration to it. It's not quite like courage is calling or discipline is destiny. It's not like the word is blank, but in some ways it's almost better. So, you never know where these breakthroughs on titles go. I'm working on this other project for someone right now, and we're like brainstorming these lists and lists and lists of things to hopefully get to a title, and then this random phrase just came to me. So I think right thing right now, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where the book ends up, or something along that line. I mean, obviously you could do just do the right thing, or do the right thing. I don't know, that's not quite it either. Maybe it is, but there's a little breakthrough, and it's coming at the end of August. The book is a little over a third done. I'm moved on to part 2 of the book. So part of the reason can be sometimes rare that you don't know the title at the outset is you don't know the book until you've written it, or you've written a chunk of it. And as the book becomes clearer and clearer to me, what I'm really feel like this book about justice is really about, it's about doing the right thing, which can include designing a government or a culture or an organization that does the right thing. But really we're talking about you and I doing the right thing, and that's what I want this book to be about, and that may well be the title. I'm in New York to do press for the Discipline book, but I'm in the middle of writing the Justice book, and I wanted to stop here. This is the African Burial Ground Memorial Monument. Thousands of bodies of African slaves were buried here over 100 or so odd years, and then totally forgotten about. Forgotten about not just literally, but forgotten about figuratively as a part of American history. And you can't think about justice in this country without thinking about the profound injustices that have happened here time and time again. And in fact, actually just right there is a U.S. courthouse. The juxtaposition of this profound injustice and supposedly a hall of justice, right, is there. It's always there. And when you read about these high-minded ideals, it's very easy to get inspired. And I've loved that on the part of writing the book, but then you also have to go to the depths of it. You have to explore the unpleasant parts. You have to explore, this is part of wisdom as well, you have to explore the parts of it that challenge you, that make you deeply uncomfortable. And if you're not seeking out things that make you uncomfortable, that challenge you, you're probably not practicing philosophy or stoicism, you're not pursuing wisdom, and you're certainly not in pursuit of justice, which I think the Stoics would say in the end is rooted in truth, it's rooted in fact. And so I'm taking a couple minutes just to sit here and meditate on that before I run and go do media appearances today and tomorrow. It is now September, and writing's going okay, but the number one thing you do when the writing starts to slow down, if you're losing the momentum, to me that's not writer's block, it's that you don't have enough material. And so now it's time to go through some more note cards. These are part 2 note cards, and I just got to go through them and I'll find the stuff that I need and something to get excited about. It is now mid-September 2022, and the book's going okay. The problem is I just had the busiest week of my life. On Monday, I was in Denver. On Tuesday, I had a talk here, and then I went and saw Iron Maiden. Wednesday, I flew to Las Vegas. Then I was in Cerro Gordo, which is a ghost town that I own and another YouTube channel that I've helped build. Then Thursday, I was doing interviews in LA. Friday, I was doing interviews in LA. Saturday, I was here signing books. Today, it's Sunday, and I'm signing more books. I had one good writing day this week. I did some reading, which was good while I was traveling, but on Tuesday, I got like maybe 2 hours in. It is extremely hard to write when you're also marketing another book. And the way this schedule has worked out, it's as I am putting one book out into the world, the other one needs to be written, and there's not enough time and not enough hours in the day, and that's been the grind. And it's not just a grind, like it wasn't just hard to be away from my family and stuff. The hard part is I love writing. I love working on this book, and I just haven't had the time. So I'm here on Sunday, very understanding wife and kids, trying to play a little bit of catch up, do a little bit of work, going through some note cards, so that when I come back tomorrow and the kids are in school and I've got more or less a full day, I can make up for some lost time, which is really how I feel. I'm trying to remind myself, speaking of discipline, that I set the pace, the book does not set the pace. The deadlines are important, but they are also illusions. But I also want to be fair to the other people involved in the process. I want to be fair to the work, don't want to cheat it, and I really enjoy doing it, and so I have to be better at making time. I have to be better at saying no, or I'm just not going to get over the finish line. And I have a chapter in this book about justice isn't just acts of charity. It's also like doing the work that you're meant to do and having a positive impact through that work. And I have to remember that when I am saying yes to stuff, and I have a sign here on my wall that says no for a reason. When I'm saying yes to stuff, I am cheating the stuff that matters, both my family and the work. It's not an exaggeration to say that there is an injustice in that, because the book that someone buys won't be as good as it could be, but more importantly, it won't necessarily get to the truth of the idea, the philosophy that I care so much about, and I've got to get there. It's coming a little sooner than I wanted it to, but I got an email from my publisher this morning. She said it's already time to begin working up the covers. The original working title when I sold it was Just Do the Right Thing, but I don't think that's going to be the title of the book. And she said, do you have a final title and subtitle that you can share? And as it happens, I wrote this down on a note card. Hang on. I wrote down a potential title on a note card. Right Thing, Right Now. And so I said, I'm not there yet, but I'm leaning towards Right Thing, Right Now. And she said, they just want something that's in the ballpark of the working title for design, which is going to begin next week on the 28th. And so I gave her Right Thing, Right Now, Justice in an Unjust World. It's not perfect, it's not exactly what I want, or maybe it will become exactly what I want, but as it happens, I'm actually working on this chapter right now, Right Thing, Right Now, which I'm building around Jimmy Carter. So I was probably halfway through the book before this idea popped to me, and before I even wanted to tackle the subject matter exactly, but here we are. And you never know where the title, the packaging, all of it will end up, but you got to start somewhere. In the discipline book, I talked about not being a perfectionist. Let me try this on, walk around in it, see how I think. It may well end up being the title of the book. All right, it is September 12th, 2:42, coming in at 181 pages, 76,663 words, including the afterword and the acknowledgements. Right Thing, Right Now is ready to go in to publisher. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna save it. I will await your notes. Then we grab you can see here, look, here's all the notes from self-discipline. So this became a Word draft. I used Google Docs before, but this became a Word draft all in one thing, May 19th, 2022. And here it is. There's June, July, August, September, and then copy the Dropbox link and send it over. Done. I was tweaking the title, Right Thing, Right Now, and then where's the punctuation in that, and then the subtitle. The working subtitle was Justice in an Unjust World. Then I was wondering, do you kind of spruce it up? Is it like living with justice or acting with justice? I want people to understand that what I'm saying is that it's justice that you do, as opposed to like a societal argument about what justice should be. So as a result of kind of opening that Pandora's box, then we got feedback on the cover. So this is the cover they're having me look at. That's discipline. I like orange. I don't know if it's the right vibe. We're still working on what the blurb should be, but I think the real problem, all these have a solid color border, and then this to have color in the border, I think it makes the cover not stand out. So anyways, there's all these things you have to think about. Basically what they were saying is that the strategy was too muted. The cover was too muted, so that's why we're back kicking it around. Yeah, it's just too, it's taking away from the, you're seeing this before you're seeing this. Like see how the cover, like the title pops on each one of them? Because the reality is discipline is just, when you look at it, most people are gonna interact with a cover as an Amazon thumbnail. And they're going to see it here. So if you have these other colors, what's not popping is the title. It's all in the thumbnail. It's all in the thumbnail. So how will it pop as a thumbnail? I think you want, and I think I like that discipline is dark versus, I might darken it. Anyway, okay, so we gotta fix that. It's actually a hard thing, like you don't think about it, but like you have to be like really protective and on guard because like there's so many cooks working on a project that people accidentally or kind of maliciously, they're trying to put their stamp on it or they're trying to control things. So like if you don't have a strong sense of like what everything's supposed to look like, it creates opportunities for other things and you don't actually realize that it's important to you until it's too late. Like for instance, like I was just finding out that in Courage, I signed the afterword, like my name and where I was, and then I meant to do that for Discipline, and then but it didn't get in there, or it's supposed to be there in Discipline. In a movie, they have what's called a continuity editor, and their job is just to make sure, like, oh no, when we filmed that scene last time, like this cup was over here, and this, or like, actually you're wearing a hat that would not be from that time period. And so you don't really have that in potion, but you do have to be on top of all the details, because if you're not, somebody who cares less than you will make that decision, and it can cumulatively impact the overall quality. So this is like somebody just made the decision to change the border, and it consistently it violates the continuity of the first two, which if you're doing intentionally would be one thing, but I'm not doing that intentionally. That's like a thing they inserted into the process, and so now I have to sort of go back and fix that. There is some part of me that's not convinced that orange may be the right color as far as this evolution of title, like evolution of red pops, blue pops, orange pops. It might like work as a cover, but is orange the color of justice? I don't know. Like what is the color of justice? I don't know, but like, so yeah, so you see boom, boom. Yeah. Is orange next to that? Like will it pop? Sure, but do you go Courage, Discipline? I don't know.
Green is my only thought.
I think green is actually what I originally suggested. I know I've seen a green version. Yeah. Dark green. I've never done green. Then also you have to think about like what other colors have you used before. Alright, so the publisher sent me back cover samples for what we're talking about. They're actually fast. This is only a few hours difference, but they fixed the border, and then I asked for a couple different shades of orange. Which of these pops? I think it's not that one. It's not that one. Between these two, which one pops to you the most, or the least?
The red is the most.
This one?
Yeah, the least is the one next to it.
This?
Yeah.
That's the one we like the most. I don't think you can do red because look how similar these are.
Yeah, it's very similar to that one.
And I feel like yellow is.
Could they change the background beige to something else? I mean,
like change what?
The whole background color of beige.
I don't know, because then the first two are one, and then the second is different. The third is different,
right?
Although they clearly changed a little bit. This one seems like I feel like this should come to pop like that. Dawson, I'm gonna forward this to you. Go see what they think. Okay. But I don't want to prejudice it, so just get some thoughts.
Which one do you like the best? On the top. Beautiful. So that's the first one.
Two for me. But red's my favorite color.
I think either that one or that one.
Oh. You like this one or this one?
Yeah, I like either that one or that one.
It's like Courage. Yeah, that's definitely too much like Courage.
Too much like Courage.
I agree.
Oh, the one. Oh, maybe that's
what do you like?
Right. Yeah, the number 2. But I think you're right.
This
it's
one?
exactly like Courage.
I like this one.
Got a lot of votes for red here.
Yeah.
but you can't.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it
it looks
is
very
exactly
similar.
like Hot Courage. The thing with the orange, it's so light. Like the third one.
This one?
Yeah.
Well, I was saying make it yellow.
I thought it was yellow. It's like gold. Yeah. That's orange. Right?
Yeah, I like that one too. If it's gonna be orange. Wait, so what are the votes?
I don't think any of us agree.
Yeah. So I like 2, but it looks too much like Courage. So I think number
One?
1. Yeah.
I say 1 or 3.
1 or 3?
I like 4.
4?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Popular, you know?
The dark orange?
The first one. Like Chelsea voted for 1 and 3.
1 and 3? What is that?
Well, 3 is yellow, like the.
Oh, so
But the yellow got the least amount of votes. Apparently, at least. Like in terms of like the conversation.
but they're all evenly spread out over the other ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, which of these covers do you like better? Which pops? And I know it's the whole point is that it's supposed to look small and not that great. This one, this one, this one, or this one? I think it's 2.
I said that yesterday.
Did you?
I think it's 2.
Yeah, I think it's 2.
The red one?
I think it's 2, but it's so close.
No, it's not. My only question
No, look, it's too close to this.
It's too close to Courage.
Yeah.
It's too close to Courage. It's the wrong color entirely. It
Well,
looks
green.
exactly like Courage.
Yeah, maybe we need to go to green.
The reason we like it is because it looks just like Courage, and the other ones don't look right because they look off from Courage. So they're too close.
Alright. Green it is.
Did you start with green?
I think so.
I was looking at your shelf and like, this stands out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but it'll still be this.
No, I'm saying, but like, as far as the color.
Green would be nice.
Yeah.
I think I gotta go green. I mean, the whole thing would be cool green, but okay, here, let me. She's not gonna be pleased. I just don't think orange works. It's too similar to Courage. Sam said she had another green that she liked. Oh, this green. That's pretty cool too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool green.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like a lime green. Like that's kind of bright. I like that. I think like if you do, what is that, like hunter green? I think that might be too dark.
Yeah.
But I like how this is kind of like that's pretty bright. Ooh, this is good too. Well, it is November and officially sweater weather, and I am in the middle of part 3 now. I've written a couple of the chapters, and I am now just going back through my note cards to start. I have a good sense of what chapters I have to do left, so I know who the main character of part 3 is going to be. I'm going to write about Gandhi. Now that I have a better sense of where I'm going, I can go back through the cards and start to get a sense of where they're all going to go and use all this material that the weird part is I've found stuff as I've been writing, and it's like, okay, I like this, but it doesn't work for part 1. Maybe it'll work for part 2. I'm like writing part 2 and I love it, and I go, but still I can't use it. Now I'm running out of runway, and so I'm starting to think about how I want to use all this stuff. But I wouldn't say I feel like I'm on the downhill of the book, but I feel like I know what this book is, I know where it's going, and I know that if I don't stop in the next few months, I will get to the end of a first draft, which is a really good feeling, especially considering where I was, 6 or so months ago, wondering if I, needed to ask for more time, if I was going to have to push this whole thing a year. So I'm chugging away. Well, it's almost Thanksgiving. The book is going along well, but I hit a hiccup today because yesterday I was playing basketball in Austin, and I'm pretty sure I broke 1 or 2 of my fingers, and it is going to make typing a little bit strange. It's actually funny, on Trust Me I'm Lying, I was riding my bike and I fell and I broke my elbow, and it kept me out for about 6 weeks. So I'm left-handed, so I couldn't type. I had a bunch of notes that I was supposed to do this week. I'm almost done with this long book about Gandhi, and I have to transfer all of it to note cards into the book. That is not going to happen. I'm going to try to do a little bit more editing today because the editing requires less finger mobility. But actually, the first thing I'm going to do today is look at the covers. Let me show you this. Megan is the editor's assistant, and she sent me Right Thing Right Now covers. These are the mock-ups. Right now the title is Right Thing Right Now, which I like. I don't know if I want this comma in there. So there's these are supposed to be the scales of justice, I guess. I like that one. So I guess the big thing is gonna be the color scheme. So Discipline was blue, Courage was red. What color do you do for justice? What about green? Green could be a cool color. Well, it is December 2022, and it took longer than I thought or expected, but I have finished the Gandhi section. I printed it out. It's 7,500 words, which is way longer than I want it to be, but it is done. So I have kind of maybe one chapter left to do here in the book. I want to do one on what Gandhi actually calls the Great Oneness, or about sort of part 3 of the book, that we're all this sort of interconnected entity, as the Stoics would say. This idea of sympathia or mutual interdependence. So I got that to do, and then I'm going to send this thing into the publisher, which is just unbelievable for me to say. But then look, I got to show you, I had some new covers. The publisher sent me some covers that I have to look at. I like that. I think I like that. So they did it as a silver, which I think is pretty cool, especially if it was shiny. That's pretty fucking sick. I think silver's it, man. Guess it was 18 months ago, I, at this table, started laying out the note cards for what would be the Justice book. I didn't know, had a very different title, very different understanding of it. This box was not nearly as full as it is now, but I have in my hands the first printed, designed manuscript, which is called First Pass Pages in publishing. Right thing right now. So this is where you're seeing what it will look like designed out as it is in the book, really for the first time. So you're seeing like all the things like table of contents, so the pages line up, symbols. And so you're basically looking here for mistakes, errors. You can like, I have a couple note cards I have to add in, but this is the manuscript back of Justice. These are all the notes. All right, so this is second pass pages of right there right now. Yep, here it is. I'm trying to get this sentence right for the cover copy. It says, history gives us many examples of how a strong sense of justice can turn ordinary people into heroes. From Harry Truman's obsession with personal integrity, even when no one is paying attention, to Susan B. Anthony's willingness to be imprisoned in her fight for equality, to Gandhi's commitment to a cause that freed millions from oppression and violence. I think I want to say something like, to Gandhi's inspiring campaign that led millions to self-rule in India and beyond. The problem is you never know when you're just fiddling. What do you think? This is the new subtitle. Good values, good character, good deeds. You think I should get a new photo, or should I use this one again? This one?
Yeah.
Looking sideways. That one. I kind of think they should use the same for all 4. You know what I mean? I should use it for all 4.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, let's do that. Let's not do that. The subtitle of this book is probably the one I have struggled with the most. With Ego is the Enemy, I cut the Gordian knot by just not having a subtitle, and I was seriously leaning towards that. I wanted to go with Justice in an Unjust World. I don't know, I was really concerned that people would think the book is not for them. With the title, it being about the right thing instead of about justice, I was really happy with. That's more in line with what I think the Stoic virtue is. It's not like legal justice or political justice. It's about what kind of person you are. And so it's funny, I went round and round and round, and then my UK publisher, I publish in the UK with this company called Profile, who they've done all my books, they're amazing. Louisa was here visiting, we had lunch across the street at base camp. I was showing her the note cards for the 4th book in the series, because they're publishing that also, and the UK edition was having to find, and she was like, look, we just really have to pick a subtitle. And we were just riffing, and she said something, she was like, what about good values and good judgment? Like that. And weirdly, that unlocked the idea of, oh, it maybe doesn't have to be a sentence. It could just be like 3 phrases. I'll actually show it to you. So we were riffing with her, an inner compass for a lost world. That was this is all like 20 potential subtitles in, like super late in the process. Like, I mean, this is the 2nd pass of the book, so we were way late. So Inner Compass for a Lost World, Find Your North Star, From Selfish to Selfless, Decency in an Indecent World. And then she threw out Good Judgment, Good Character, Good Deeds. And then that was what I proposed to my publisher, and then literally as I was writing about it, I suggested good judgment, good character, good deed. They were like, okay, we like the path to goodness in an unjust world, or in an unjust world. It still had justice in there, so I didn't like it. And then they said good judgment, good deeds, good character. And then I said, let's do the good one. How about good values, good character, good deeds? So February of 2024, having started the book in June of 22, finally figured out the subtitle. So that's how long it is. The title itself was this whole crazy thing. In the proposal, in the Four Virtues proposal, the book was called Just Do the Right Thing. That was the title of the book. And then the working title of it, I framed it in commemoration. The working title of the book, when I started writing it, was in a nod to Metallica, and Justice for All. Just Do the Right Thing became And Justice for All, which became Right Thing Right Now. And then the subtitle, all these years later, finally got settled. This proposal was written in the summer of 2019. It took from the summer of 2019 to the winter of 24 to figure out the title and subtitle of the new book, which I am now finally very, very happy with. So I'm doing signed copies of the Justice book, or Right Thing Right Now as it's called. And the publisher wants me to do 15,000. So they don't send you 15,000 books. They send you, I guess it'd be 7,500 sheets, right? 1 page, 2 page. This gets bound into the book in the printing process. So they printed basically some pages early. So someone on my team has to number all 15,000 pages, and I have to sign it. So this is 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Now I just have to do that, what, 1,500 more times? Is that math, right?
Way more.
Anyways, I'm gonna have to do this a lot. So the way you do big things, the way you do hard things, is you do them in pieces. The great Zeno line is, well-being is realized by small steps, but it's no small thing. I am in the middle now of having somewhat foolishly agreed to produce 15,000 numbered first editions of the new book, doing the Virtue series. So this one's on justice. So what you do is you sign these tip-ins. The tip-ins get bound into the book, one of a kind, unique thing. But it means I have to sign my name 15,000 times. And then I'm gonna personalize some of them. I try to personalize like about 10% of them with like little messages and stuff just to keep it interesting. Anyways, how I think about it is I had someone in my team number them in chunks of 500. So I think about it in blocks of 500, and I'll sit down and I'll go, okay, I'm gonna do 100. Or I'll sit down and go, you know what? Tonight, after the kids go to bed, I'm gonna do a whole block of 500 and bring them into the office. And then I'm doing in my head, okay, how many sets of 500 do I have to do to finish? This is how I swim. Like, I don't sit down and swim a mile. I swim 72 laps, right? And 72 laps is 7 sets of 10, and then I push myself to do 2 more right when I'm at the limit. When I'm writing, I go, okay, I'm gonna do a chapter today, and then I cross that off, and I go, and you know what, I'm gonna do a little bit of the next chapter, right? So I'm always just trying to break really big, hard tasks down into smaller component pieces. Mark Aurelius talks about this in Meditations too. He says, you assemble your life action by action, step by step. Says basically no one can stop you from that. 15,000 copies is a long way from now. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about how much time it's gonna take. What I am thinking about is, am I cracking at it today? Am I making some positive steps on it today? Am I just doing a little bit? And you know, lo and behold, just even while I'm sitting here talking to you, this is 96, 97, 98. So right, there's a set of them done, and I'm a little bit closer to ending. So I was just at my kids' jiu-jitsu practice and my phone started blowing up. And I told my agent I'd call him back when I got to the office. So let's see what he has to say here.
Ryan, congratulations.
Well, what's the word?
You're #1.
New York Times?
#1 New York Times advice ahead of all other books.
No way.
Does it get any better than that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. This is number 2, right? This is the second time?
You've had several #1s, but I guess what, in the series, this is the first time, right?
No, I mean, so still this hit #1, and then this is the second #1 New York Times. I don't think I've hit it any other times. For Discipline, it was number 2, right?
Yes, I think that's correct.
Oh,
It
man.
was.
There's something about hitting a target as a byproduct of doing what you were trying to do, as opposed to aiming at said thing. Like, this is nice, but not the main goal. The main goal was to do the book and to get it to people, and then this is a byproduct.
And look at the net result. You vaulted justice to number 1 on the New York Times list.
To me, that's the craziest thing, because I would have guessed that this would be the hardest sell of the whole series, but here we are.
I think the way you put it forward, people are really engaging in. So this doesn't get old, my friend.
No.
Congratulations to you.
You know, after Belichick won his first Super Bowl, someone said, you know, what do we do next? And he said, we win more of them. And I don't know if that's exactly the right vibe, but I do. I'm gonna go work on the wisdom book a little bit as a celebration. All right, my tradition, which I've learned the hard way, is that you celebrate the noun getting the accomplishment or the achievement. You celebrate the noun by doing the verb, which is what I'm gonna do now, and that is work on the next book. When I wrote The Daily Stoic 8 years ago, I had this crazy idea that I would just keep it going. The book was 366 meditations, but I'd write one more every single day and I'd give it away for free as an email. I thought maybe a few people would sign up. Couldn't have even comprehended a future in which 750,000 people would get this email every single day, and would for almost a decade. If you want to get the email, if you want to be part of a community that is the largest group of Stoics ever assembled in human history, I'd love for you to join us. You can sign up and get the email totally for free, no spam. You can unsubscribe whenever you want at dailystoic.com/email.